We know that our current instantiations of therapy, although helpful for compensation, are less beneficial to true functional recovery. And that's where a lot of my work has centered at Johns Hopkins, is exploring what allows the endogenous repair mechanisms that we know work, especially early after stroke, to work and to work so well. And although we have a number of lines of research, one of the things that has become really intriguing is this idea of this endogenous early repair mechanism. The brain itself, immediately after the stroke, has repair mechanisms that kick in.
Wow.
And when we provide the right type of, for example, occupational therapy and high dose, high intensity therapy on top of that, you can begin to see results.
Hi everyone, welcome to Psychedelic Conversations. Today we have in the house Dr. Steven Zeiler. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for making time to meet with us.
My pleasure.
How are you finding Psychedelic Conference?
This is my first time and I'm enjoying it so far.
Great. So just to give a little bit of a context of your background, I just want to say a few words about you to our listeners. Dr. Steven Zeiler is a physician at the Johns Hopkins University, and you're researching on the strokes.
That's correct.
If you can walk us through it, but before that, I was going to ask you about what brings you to this work.
My team and I are very interested in improving stroke recovery. And through a number of happenstances, that's how I've come to understand that psychedelics might help with that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing that. So give us a little bit of an overview of what we're dealing with globally, because what you're researching is very significant at this point.
Yeah, so as you say, I am a stroke physician, and in my clinical work, I care for patients with acute stroke. But with improved acute stroke care, more patients are surviving, and they are surviving with their stroke-induced deficits. And to put a fine point on that, anywhere between 500 to 600,000 patients annually just in the United States are left with some motor deficit that affects their daily lives, even though everything in the immediate situation worked exactly as it was supposed to. And what that means is we have millions of patients that are in what we refer to as the chronic stage of stroke. Their insurance has stopped paying, they're no longer recovering, and they're left with some important deficit that impacts their lives. That's where my team comes in.
Wow, this is a powerful work you're doing. Yeah, and what are you guys finding? Where we are at on this now?
Well, we've learned several important things. We know that our current instantiations of therapy, although helpful for compensation, are less beneficial to true functional recovery. And that's where a lot of my work has centered at Johns Hopkins, is exploring what allows the endogenous repair mechanisms that we know work, especially early after stroke, to work and to work so well. And although we have a number of lines of research, one of the things that has become really intriguing is this idea of this endogenous early repair mechanism.
Wow.
That happens in the brain.
Could you repeat that again for us?
This early endogenous repair mechanisms, meaning early after stroke, the
like
brain.
The sooner the better?
Well, and you're absolutely right. And the brain itself, immediately after the stroke, has repair mechanisms that kick in.
Wow.
And when we provide the right type of, for example, occupational therapy and high dose, high intensity therapy on top of that, you can begin to see results. After meeting Gul Dolan, who is my collaborator.
Also she's my hero in the research.
We realized that her work looking at critical periods and how psychedelics can reopen a critical period, a period of heightened plasticity. There was the very real possibility that we might be able to do something similar in patients with chronic stroke, meaning they've already passed through that period of endogenous repair mechanisms where the plasticity is high. And so my team, Gul Dolan's team, has looked at this preclinically in animals, and we're beginning to see that there is the possibility of psychedelics reopening this critical period.
Even if the person had it 10 years ago, because I know people with families who bedridden for like 10 years in care, no motor functions on, like they lose a lot of that motor function, right?
And wouldn't that be amazing? And that's the goal.
Right.
Is if we can translate what we are beginning to see in the preclinical world to the clinical world. And wouldn't it be amazing if to take a patient in the right set and setting, provide psychedelics, and then re-intervene with the things that we know are important otherwise in that early time period?
That's fantastic. I've been thinking about that. I think several years ago when I first started the podcasting, I met with another doctor who's actually had his own journey with the stroke. And he said, taking the alternative route, he was able to get back into the normality through psychedelics. But I think at the time when I interviewed him, the critical window wasn't really a thing. I know Professor Dolan has brought this to our attention. I feel like this could be utilized in many areas. That's what I'm feeling, the way you are sharing with us.
Well, that's a great thought, and we've discussed this, is that although stroke is the first thing that we're thinking about, and stroke has a lot of data that we can pull from.
Right.
There's no reason that this would have to be limited to just that type of injury, but we could see this being useful in a number of types of injuries to the brain.
And this is your specific area, I understand. Yeah.
Correct.
So maybe if we can get some results from here, then it will be easier to apply it to different things, different areas, maybe.
I agree with you. And one of the things that I think is important in what we're looking at now is, we've hinted at this a little bit, is the set and setting, meaning that the therapy that would be used after the psychedelic dosing would be something specific to stroke. And whatever the disease process is, the therapy would need to be tailored to that. In other words, it's the psychedelic dose that we think opens the window for that therapy to play a role.
Wow. What does that look like? Do you have, would you share a little bit? Like, what would that setting look like in a stroke patient?
Well, and therein is where a lot of my other work has played a role. So ever since I joined the faculty at Johns Hopkins, I was a mentee of John Krakauer. He is an investigator, an academician who has looked at what we can do post-stroke. And although there is a lot of data that we could talk about, one of the important ways to summarize this would be high dose, high intensity. Providing therapy for the arm, providing therapy for the hand that we know works at high dose and high intensity. And one way to think about this, and I think this is a great analogy, especially with what we're thinking about, is what a child does early on in development. What a toddler does is they are exploring the world, and they're using their hands and they're using their arms. It's a lot of work. They're constantly doing it. And that's what we want our post-stroke patients to be doing, but doing it in a way that is meaningful for their recovery.
Right. Yeah. Just makes sense.
Yeah.
Wow. This is fascinating. Thank you so much for doing this work. Really, it's a pleasure to see this happening here, and I was really excited to speak to you about this. It's very prevalent in the world, not just in the United States.
It is.
Yeah, it's debilitating families, limiting a lot of these, life forces in people.
I agree with you, and I have the honor of being able to to try to make a difference with my team at Johns Hopkins, not only from the acute onset, but hopefully with some of these things to make a difference at the tail end as well.
Yeah, wonderful. So would you be open to coming back to our channel to speak more extensively about this? I think our listeners will highly appreciate, and I think this will be so valuable to them.
I would love to come back. That would be fabulous.
Thank you so much. This is a great introduction to our listeners because they're very curious listeners. We have very engaging listeners, and we're very much in the field of let's stay on the ground and look at these, symptoms and the diseases and these limitations that really affect life.
Couldn't agree more, and I appreciate being here, and I look forward to coming back.
Thank you so much for spending time with us, and we'll look forward to having you back.
Thank you.
All the best with everything. What would you like to leave our listeners with now that they heard that this is happening under your guidance?
When we launch these studies in humans, if there is somebody that your listeners thinks might benefit, by all means. There is a website at Johns Hopkins. You can look up Steve Zeiler, Gul Dolan. You can refer a patient in and we can see if we can help.
Fantastic. So they can find you there. And we'll add all of your links.
Please.
And all your information in the show notes so they can easily find you.
Love
and get in touch.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you everyone for joining us. Hope you guys enjoyed this conversation. Please stay tuned and share, comment, ask questions, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.